What's up, guys? Tugi here. This is episode 2 of Rebuilding Hockey Town, which means it's time for another setup video. I'm just kidding. Calm down. Don't leave. I'm joking. It's a bad joke. I'm sorry. We will actually make some progress in this episode. Before we can do that, though, I need to cover a couple of things. First and foremost, you might notice that the menu system looks just a little bit different. That is because we restarted. Don't worry, all the settings are still the same, with the exception of owner mode being completely turned off, because it is pretty damn pointless to manage ticket prices and jersey sales and all that stuff. It is just a tacked on feature and really kind of a waste of time. The reason, though, why I restarted is when we were going through our contracts and our unsigned players in the last episode, I noticed Joachim Anderson was there, who was no longer with the Detroit Red Wings. And it got me thinking, okay, if we have people on our roster that are here that shouldn't be, are other teams affected? And as you can see by the list on your screen right now, yeah, a lot of teams were affected. So we went through, we removed those players and those contracts, and we freed up contract spots for not only our team, but for almost every team in the league. Now, we should actually have a few more contract spots than we do, but the game, for some reason, chooses to sign certain prospects. Two of them here, Vahatawa and Ein, who aren't signed by the Wings, but for some reason, the game signs these guys automatically. But that is the main reason why we started, or why we restarted. Don't worry, I'm not going to just go out now and sign all of the NCAA free agents. We are probably going to sign at least one, and I'll show you why in a minute with our AHL situation. But that's why the menu looks different. Yes, we restarted. Any major changes I'll tell you about. The settings are still the same, and all of that. Before now we do go out and sign an NCAA free agent, I want to show you guys the current AHL situation, which right now our lineup is looking okay. The big problem with the AHL is that we have 7 players that are currently on AHL deals. For those of you that don't know or haven't watched one of my series before, it is, of course, a common problem in this game. If you want to go best lines, rather than taking time to make sure that your prospects are actually in the lineup, a lot of times you'll see someone like Matt Ford, who you currently don't have under contract, but is under contract to the Grand Rapids Griffins. And right now, he, Campbell, Cleary, and then defensively you have Kaito, Paige, Allen, and a goalie, Cal Heater, are all currently in that situation. So rather than going out and signing a ton of AHL free agents, I'm only going to use one of those spots. We might use some waiver claims if we get the opportunity throughout the season. And of course, those spots could come in handy if we have to make a trade. But the goal for me is to be able to sign all of those players that I just listed, cut them at the end of the year, and that way we don't have to worry, and I can just go best lines in the AHL rather than taking time to edit the lineup every 5 seconds. But the lineup itself is looking okay. The Grand Rapids Griffins should be competitors this year. I'm hoping that they will make the playoffs, but they are, of course, going to get a reinforcement here, and I'm still a little bit up in the air about who to sign. Of course, I showed you guys the prospects in the last episode, but we'll go over them again super quickly here. As far as goaltending prospects, you really only have Gahagan. Ken Appleby is someone who is now still with the New Jersey Devils because of the contract situation that we were able to resolve. Defensively, you have Pionk, Brickley, and Wesley, who is still there. Unfortunately, you also have Healy, who is high 7th. But if we were going for a defenseman, it would probably be Pionk or Brickley, or is it Pionk? I don't know, genuinely. And then forwards, there's really only one guy, the leading scorer in the NCAA this year, Zach Aston Reese. And when you're talking about our lineup, you may have noticed that Turgeon was in the 4th line center spot down in Grand Rapids. He is high top 9 at 19 years old, maybe even 20. I think he might be 20. Bottom line is, he's just a younger version of Zach Aston Reese. So I don't think we'll sign him. I'd rather just have the younger version in there. And we could use help defensively. I think we could. So that brings us to the right-handed shot, Neil Pionk or Daniel Brickley. the left-handed shot. Now, our third pairing defense was Hicketts, who was high 7th D, and 23-year-old Robbie Russo on the right-hand side, who is medium top 6. Wesley, also an option. He is a little bit further away, though. So when you talk about what defenseman we need more, Pionk, more of a two-way, if not offensively orientated defenseman. Brickley, more of a two-way, if not a bit better defensively. And I got to go with the right-handed shot. I got to go with Neil Pionk, whatever. I'm going to offer him a 2-year deal, which is somewhat of a common deal for players coming out of the NCAA. Now, whether or not he signs is another question. Of course, we didn't go crazy with offering him a max deal, so there is a chance that he might not sign with us, in which case we will go for somebody else. But let's sim a few days here and see if we get an answer. Then I'll show you the main team lineup. You may have already gotten a glimpse at it, but I'll show you what's going on there, and we will begin the sim. Neil Pionk is here. Lovely. He will be down in Grand Rapids. As for the AHL players that we need to sign, I'm not going to do anything until we get closer to the trade deadline. That is when I will worry about actually signing those guys and getting everything figured out. But quickly, let's get the AHL situation figured out. We'll take a look at the NHL lineup, which I'm sure you might already have some questions about. But overall, happy with the Griffins, and hopefully they can do well this season. The NHL. Our top line is going to be Henrik Zetterberg with Franz Nielsen, who could be a playmaker, was a playmaker. I switched him to a two-way for now, but we can switch him back if necessary. That's going to be a common theme with a lot of our players. They could be multiple build types. Gustav Nyquist also on the top line. I will clarify why in a moment. Second line, Justin Abdelkader, of course, as a power forward, good to go. Could be a grinder even if we don't expect him to be that great offensively. Dylan Larkin is the center. A playmaker, again, could be a two-way, could even be a sniper. Let me know what you think on that. And Thomas Tatar, could be a playmaker, could be a sniper, could be a two-way. So why are Larkin and Tatar on the second line instead of the top line? The answer is pretty simple. Nielsen and Nyquist are both over the age of 26, so their overall won't really climb too much. They're listed as second liners. Larkin and Tatar, listed as second liners. They still have potential, so we're going to play them in their proper role and hope that they actually develop. Dylan Larkin, and whether or not he actually develops into an elite player in this series, is huge for us. And oftentimes, he's one of those 50-50 players. He could turn into somebody good, or he just doesn't really make it over the 86 overall mark. It's the same story with Andreas Athanasiou, a third-line guy. We're going to hope that he can develop. He is centered by Darren Helm, and Anthony Mantha is on the third-line spot as a result. Athanasiou, again, another one of those players, could be any number of builds. Anthony Mantha could be a power forward. We're starting him off as a sniper. The fourth line, as you know, Tyler Bertuzzi, he's going to be set up as a grinder, is with Riley Sheahan, who I actually dropped to an 82, and the game put him back at an 83. Might not score a goal. I believe he set the record now for most shots in an NHL season without scoring. It's like 83, 85 shots without scoring a goal. The poor bastard. Luke Glendening there as well. Again, he could be a grinder. He could be a two-way. We have him listed as a two-way. Fun fact about Luke Glendening, he is our only right-handed forward in the lineup, which, if you guys have watched one of my series, you know me. I prefer to have righties on the right, lefties on the left, whether it's in this or an ultimate team. So yeah, a little bit of an interesting situation. Defensively, Danny DeKeyser is going to play with Nicholas Kronwall. Eriksson is with Green. Xavier Ouellet is with Nick Jensen. Spreading the wealth a little bit here. We could have Kronwall and Green on the top pairing. I'm going to change it up a little bit. DeKeyser's been switched to a defensive D-man. We have quite a few of them. Kronwall is a two-way. Green's an offensive defenseman, and Ouellet is a two-way defenseman as well. The rest are defensive. And, of course, the starting goaltender is going to be Petr Mrazek. I did lower Jimmy Howard's overall by 1 point. Reason is, Mrazek last year in the NHL, great. This year, pretty poor. Jimmy Howard, last year in the NHL, not great. This season, he's only played 17 games or so, but he's been great. So they're pretty much in the same spot. Of course, Mrazek still has the brighter future. Anyway, we have talked enough. Let's get in to this new season. Of course, signing Pionk is going to be the only move that we do at the start. And I know, a lot of people, it's not even necessarily a matter of playing it realistically. Anybody can begin a new series, immediately trade Zetterberg and Cronwall and whoever else and picks, and get whoever the hell they want and turn it into a super team. That's not that entertaining. That's not that fun to do in general. I mean, these series, for me, it's more about the struggle and the challenge of trying to win cups as opposed to just building that super team immediately and winning year after year after year. So I want there to be a struggle with this series. I want there to be a challenge. Originally, too, I was going to have a 2-loss rule as we already suffer our first injury. Luke Glendening goes down. That is unfortunate. But I want there to be a struggle. I want there to be a challenge. And defensively, what I was beginning to say, or goaltending-wise, is I was going to have a 2-loss policy and then you rotate out. I was about to give Mrazek a third chance. Let's just put Miller in on that fourth line. And if Drew Miller gets claimed on waivers, I'm not going to be too disappointed. Really, we do need to get a replacement into the lineup. And then, before we get really too far back into the sim, is Holmstrom one of our guys? I think Axel Holmstrom is signed, so we'll put him in for Cleary, or for Miller, and we'll put him in Cleary's spot on the fourth line. We'll have to check, too, as we have lost 3 straight games to start the year. Maybe not a bad thing. Maybe not. I do want to see where some of these players have gone, and if there have been any moves already. No trades, signings. And there you go. Daniel Walcott and Zach Aston Reese both go to Carolina. The Jets had a fucking field day. Oh my God. Austin Cangelosi, Josh Healy, Spencer Fu, Josh Wesley, Anthony Richard, and Mason Mitchell, all to Winnipeg. And I'm the one that hoards prospects. Oh my God. And they made those signings over quite a few days as well. Alexander Iafallo goes to Dallas. The Winnipeg Jets. Oh, you scumbags. I'm going to take a look. I am going to take a look and just see who is left. I don't know if I'll sign anybody else. But for shits and giggles, let's take a look. Brickley is still there. Brickley, Clues, Vecchione, and Dries. And I believe, of course, the goaltending prospect is still there. We already have a logjam of goaltenders, though. Do I go out and sign Brickley? Now, we're at 47 contracts, which isn't terrible. I could sign one more guy. I could. Now, whether or not you guys view that as cheap, I don't know, but would it be as cheap as Winnipeg signing 18 fucking people? Not necessarily. The goalie's 23, right? Yeah, he's 23. I don't think... he might turn into a serviceable backup, but it's very easy to get a decent backup in this game. If I'm going to sign him, I want it, or if I'm going to sign anybody, I want it to be somebody that could actually make a big impact on this team. So Brickley, Klus, who is a playmaker. You have Vecchione, two-way, and Sheldon Dries, a two-way. Right. I'm tempted to go with the defenseman again. I really am. Daniel Brickley is available. Are there any teams in on him? No. I'm going to check for the other 3 guys really quick, too. So Arizona's going after Klus. Vecchione? No. And Dries? No. I'm going to give it a few more days. We might only sim to the end of this first month. If any of those 4 players are still there, I think we'll go for him. Because we'll give everyone else a chance to sign him now. Looking at the goaltender, Petr Mrazek, in fairness, a .914 save percentage despite 3 losses. That is pretty damn good. But we're going to give Jimmy Howard a chance here against the New York Rangers. This should be awful. Howard will play the next 2 games, and we'll put Mrazek back in against San Jose and probably play him until the Florida game as Athanasiou goes down That magic number of 9 out of 100 on the injuries, that's not doing too well. Granted, neither man has been hurt for that long. It's just been a week or two. But that is a little bit rough. We will call up... I'm tempted to say Mitch Callahan because he still has a little bit of a future at 25 years old. Eric Tangradi it is, the veteran. Eric Tangradi gets the call up. This has been a rough start. We're going to have to go best lines here and get this set back up properly just to make sure. So we'll have Tangradi down there, Drew Miller. Actually, can Bertuzzi play center? Nope, Tangradi can't, although I swear he should have been able to. All right, so yeah, Shahan will stay down on the fourth line. I do want to get the defense set back up the way that we had it. And let's get Jimmy Howard. Oh, he's still in there by default through best lines. Right. I didn't expect this many injuries to start. I thought we had the right magic number there. But Colin Campbell's not signed by us. Sadawi is. So we'll put him in. I don't even know if he can play center. I don't really care either. Let's just get this going. Draft class will be good. No shit. With all the people I've added into this game, I'd hope it would be a good draft class. We suck. 0-4-1 to start. Like I said, I do want to see if we're actually going to be this bad before we trade Zetterberg, before we trade Cronwall. And again, I'm excited, very excited now, if this continues, because it should be a very interesting trade deadline. But yeah, I expected a bad start. I didn't expect this bad of a start. We will play Mrazek over the next 4 games. We are going to have to edit the lineup, though, quite a bit because of players returning from injury, so that's going to be a little bit annoying. Although both are back, so we just won't... actually, no, we'll put them in right now. We'll sim the next day to the Carolina game, and I was hoping one of them would at least be back to 100%. That is not the case, but let's get Tangradi and Miller back down. We'll see if either get claimed. Hopefully, in a way, it would clear up a spot. Tangradi made it. Did Miller. Miller was claimed. All right. So Drew Miller is on his way out. An interesting development as we already lose a player on waivers. Nice. I didn't expect him to get claimed. I mean, it's not like he's this integral part of our team, obviously. But interesting that we already lose a player on waivers. Let's get Mrazek back. And let's take out... Holmstrom's actually a center. So we'll actually... No, okay, I'm going to have to do this a certain way. Give me 1 second. Let's go with Tangradi in for Holmstrom. And then we'll bring in Holmstrom for Sadawi. And we will be good to go. Let's get that fixed. I'm going to put Street on top line instead of Svechnikov. And we are looking all right. So... let's see who Drew Miller was claimed by. And if there have been any other major moves so far. No picks, signings, no other signings as well. All right, so we do have a chance, depending on how cheap we wanted to be. And actually, if we hit the end of the month and they're all there, I'll ask you guys, who do we sign, if not all 3? But Drew Miller off to the Vancouver Canucks. All right, well, at the very least, we do get rid of someone. I think he was on an expiring deal as well. Don't quote me on that. But I think he was. So let's sim these next 3 games. Jimmy Howard will play against the Florida Panthers. And we pick up our first win of the year against the Carolina Hurricanes. We lose in a shootout. Couple of overtime losses now, or shootout losses. That's not the worst. We beat the Bruins 3-1. The Red Wings have 2 wins on the year. Look out. We are gunning for that Stanley Cup. No doubt about that. Let's get Jimmy Howard between the pipes for the last game of this episode. The next episode will be the big deciding factor. And yes, I know we're moving a little bit slowly, but that is what I like to do when we first start a new series, when it's not as formulaic. The next episode will be big, and of course we'll decide whether or not we are, selling at the deadline. That is the big decision. I guess we scouted OHL forwards. I'm just going to go WHL forwards for 6 weeks. That's the thing about this first draft, is we are pretty much going to know the names. But the first month of the season is done, a 3-5-2 record. It was looking like it was going to be a hell of a lot worse for us. So, not too bad. Let's take one more look. No trades, no other signings. So that is the big question. We will look one more time at our current contract situation. I believe it's 46, although technically it should be 47 because I believe Giovanni Smith is in the CHL. So we have room to sign at least 2 players, maybe 3. Although I would say if we had room to sign 3 players, we should only sign 1 or 2, just because you never know who might pop up on waivers. Although waivers in this game certainly aren't as crazy as they were in prior years, at least from my experience. You don't see Nikita Kucherov get passed down through waivers. But looking here, we do still have 1 solid defenseman in Brickley, although it is funny, he wasn't signed, but Healy was. I guess that's how much the AI GMs really like that physical category. I'm not sure. And then you have the 3 guys, the 3 forwards here, all centers: Justin Kluse, Mike Vecchione, and Sheldon Dries, or Dries. But yeah, I mean, if we had to sign 1, I would probably go with the defenseman, but there is a forward option, especially now that we have lost Drew Miller on waivers. So let me know, do we sign any of them? Do we sign one of them? As many as we can? Do we not sign anybody and just take advantage of the fact that we have that little bit of extra space now as far as contracts go, which again could really come in handy once we get closer to the trade deadline? Anthony Mantha leading the team in points through this first episode. 8 points in 10 games. Only 2 goals as a sniper, but not too bad. Franz Nielsen doing okay. Is there anybody who's really disappointing so far? Not exactly. Not exactly. I mean, 3 points in 10 games for Abdelkader's not terrible. So we don't have a winning record at the moment, but overall I think things are looking up for this team, and we still could potentially make the playoffs. You never know. But guys, that is it. Episode 2 has come to a close, where we make our first signing of the series. A couple of interesting changes with player types, and that could continue to happen. Next episode, though, will be huge for the outlook of the rest of this series. It will decide whether or not we sell at this first deadline. And like I said, man, and I've said it a million times, you never know with this sim. We could be a playoff team. We could have the number 1 overall pick for the first draft. We could win the Stanley Cup. There's no way to tell. So I'm definitely excited for that next episode. Through the first 10 games, things are looking a little bit rocky, but man, you don't know. That's the thing. I wish I could say, like, yeah, we're totally going to find success. We're not even in last place in our division, although granted the Bruins do have 2 games at hand. But let's see, Tampa Bay flying right now. And really quickly, I mean, it's very early, but the Devils at the bottom of the standings. Guys, I can't drag out this episode any longer. I hope you did enjoy. And of course, moving on through the next few episodes as we move through this first season. If you didn't find this as interesting, it should pick up in excitement, I would hope at least. But if you did enjoy this episode, of course, as always, support the channel, support the video, support me in any way that you deem necessary. It is greatly appreciated. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Will we be a playoff team come the trade deadline? I can't wait to find out.